Key one, that Stoic life is filled with challenges we can't control. It's frustrating, disheartening, and at times it feels downright unfair. We often think we deserve better systems, fairer outcomes, or more just circumstances, and those thoughts are perfectly valid. But Stoicism teaches us an enduring truth. Focus on what you can control. This lesson becomes especially critical in the context of an election year, like the one we're facing in 2024. Imagine what Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king who wielded immense power with caution and responsibility, would say about today's world. What would the ancient Stoics, who saw democracy in Greece and the Republic of Rome, think of our modern political landscape? You might believe politics is divisive or beneath the serene philosophy of Stoicism. But here's an important truth. Many of history's most revered Stoics didn't just meditate in isolation. They were also leaders, public servants, and politicians. They didn't retreat from public life. They engaged with it. They believed that true virtue requires action. Why does this matter? Because if those of us who value integrity and wisdom decide to disengage, we effectively hand over the reins of power to those driven by selfishness and corruption. Pericles, an influential Athenian statesman, warned that when good people step away, they leave a vacuum that is filled by the wrong kind of leaders. You may be thinking, my vote doesn't matter. But history proves otherwise. In the 2016 U.S. presidential election, the results came down to just 77,000 votes across 3 states. And in smaller elections, a few votes can make all the difference. In one small Texas town, a city council election was decided by only 2 votes. Imagine that. Your vote might be the one that tips the scale. Yet, despite the immense power a single vote can hold, half of eligible voters often choose not to participate. Why? Some believe their vote won't make a difference. But by abstaining, we surrender the decision-making process to those who thrive on apathy and division. Stoicism urges us to focus on what's within our control, and voting is something firmly within our sphere of influence. You might argue, I don't like any of the candidates. It feels like choosing between 2 evils. Welcome to adulthood. Life isn't about finding the perfect solution. It's about choosing the best possible option available. Even Marcus Aurelius cautioned against waiting for Plato's ideal republic, because it doesn't exist. We must engage with the world as it is, not as we wish it to be. So, when faced with imperfection, what should you do? You engage. You vote. You make the best decision you can. You don't let frustration or cynicism silence you. Because the one thing you can always control is whether you show up and make your voice heard. That's what the Stoics would do. And it's what we should do too. Key 1. Stoic in history. There are moments when leadership is tested not by the grand gestures, but by the smaller choices that shape a leader's character. Take, for example, the situation of a principled Roman leader who sought an alliance through marriage, a common practice in those days. He proposed a marriage into the co-family, expecting it to secure his political position. Interestingly, the women in Co's family were quite open to the idea. But Co, a man of strong values, refused. His stance was clear. He would not allow himself or his family to be bought through a marriage alliance. He wasn't going to play the political game this way. In his mind, it was every man for himself. Plutarch, the biographer whose grandson would later become the philosophy teacher of Marcus Aurelius, saw Co's decision with a touch of regret. In hindsight, Plutarch believed that by refusing this alliance, Co unintentionally contributed to the collapse of the Roman Republic. His unwillingness to compromise, to make decisions based on the lesser of 2 evils, ultimately paved the way for a future where political deals, much like the one he rejected, would become the norm. Instead of forging alliances with powerful figures to stabilize the state, Co's rigid principles led to missed opportunities. Meanwhile, his rival, Pompey, took a similar approach, but ended up securing a marriage alliance with Caesar, an alliance that would help him strengthen his political power. This brings us to an essential question. What makes a good leader? And what can we learn from Stoic philosophy about the qualities we should seek in a leader? In Meditations, Marcus Aurelius provides us with some insight into what he valued in leadership, specifically in his stepfather, Antoninus Pius. Marcus revered Antoninus, and it's said that of all the figures in his life, none was more influential than him. Antoninus was a seasoned politician who held various important offices, including serving as a senator. He was an exemplary leader, deeply involved in Roman public life. The philosopher Hadrian selected him as the ideal guardian for Marcus, believing that Antoninus would prepare him for eventual leadership. Interestingly, Hadrian likely expected Marcus to be his successor only after a few years, but Marcus ended up learning from Antoninus for over 2 decades. During this time, he absorbed lessons that would shape his approach to leadership. In Meditations, Marcus lists the virtues he admired most in Antoninus. These included compassion, unwavering commitment to decisions, indifference to superficial honors, hard work, persistence, and an openness to listen to anyone who could contribute to the greater good. Antoninus's ability to balance when to push and when to step back, his dedication to the needs of the empire, and his willingness to take responsibility. These were all qualities that Marcus deeply appreciated. What stood out most was Antoninus's ability to enjoy and abstain from things that most people find hard to resist. In many ways, Antoninus was the model of self-control, strength, and perseverance. His leadership, grounded in virtue and service to the state, is often seen as one of the highest examples of Roman leadership. Marcus Aurelius, despite his own greatness, understood that Antoninus was the real pillar of Rome's golden age. The 5 good emperors, as they are known, all followed in Antoninus's footsteps. Yet, unlike Marcus and others, Antoninus's leadership was free from shame, power struggles, or fatal flaws. Now, let's bring this back to the modern world. As we think about leadership today, especially in the context of political power, we must ask ourselves, who are the leaders that align with these Stoic virtues? Who embodies the traits that Marcus so admired in Antoninus? Integrity, selflessness, responsibility, and a deep commitment to public service. Unfortunately, these qualities are rare. Far too often, we see leaders who are driven by ego, fame, and personal gain rather than by a true desire to serve the people. This is why Marcus Aurelius's concerns about the corrupting influence of absolute power are so relevant. He feared that the immense power of the emperor would change him, would dye him, with the corrupting influence of authority. He knew that without wisdom and self-control, a leader could easily succumb to arrogance, manipulation, and tyranny. In modern terms, the same applies to anyone holding significant power, especially those in positions of great authority like the president of a nation. If a leader lacks self-control, if they're not guided by virtuous principles, they're not only ill-suited to lead, but also ill-suited to wield the immense power they hold. The example of Nero's reign is a stark reminder of this. In the early years, he was guided by advisors like Seneca, and his reign was relatively stable. But as power seeped into his system, it exposed his weaknesses, his vanity, his insecurity, and his lack of competence. Nero craved attention, sought validation, and was more interested in being a poet or an artist than a ruler. His reign eventually descended into chaos, with cruelty, murder, and neglect for the people. Nero's story shows that power doesn't just corrupt. It reveals the true character of the individual. And in Nero's case, that character was deeply flawed. What does this mean for us as citizens today? It's not enough to look at a leader's popularity or charisma. We must ask ourselves if they possess the moral fiber to lead, if they can exercise self-control, if they are motivated by service, and if they can navigate the immense responsibility of power without letting it distort their judgment. History is full of examples of both great leaders and disastrous ones. We must strive to ensure that those who hold power are individuals of the highest moral character, for only then can they fulfill the true role of leadership, to serve, not to be served. Ultimately, as the Stoics remind us, leadership is not about personal glory or the trappings of power. It's about responsibility, service, and the capacity to lead by example. If a leader cannot manage their own desires, how can they hope to lead an entire nation? The Stoics understood this deeply, and we would do well to remember it when we consider who we entrust with power. Key 1. Stoic: when you encounter someone who is dishonest, deceitful, or simply lacking integrity, someone whose behavior you would never tolerate in a leader, co-worker, or business partner, you're facing a character issue that can't be ignored. The Stoics understood this fundamental truth: character is fate. It doesn't matter how much you agree on specific issues with someone. Ultimately, the integrity of a person shapes everything. If someone consistently shows bad character, you must accept that it will influence their actions and decisions, and it will likely lead to trouble. This timeless truth can be illustrated by the story of the frog and the scorpion. In this fable, a scorpion asks a frog for a ride across a stream, assuring him that he won't sting him. But halfway through, the scorpion stings the frog, fatally wounding him. As the frog dies, he asks, "Why did you do that?" The scorpion simply replies, "What do you expect? I'm a scorpion." The message here is clear. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. A person's character cannot be changed in the moment, especially in high-stakes roles like leadership. Musonius Rufus, a Stoic philosopher, highlighted the importance of virtue in leadership, stating that every ruler must be a philosopher, and every philosopher must possess the noble character of a ruler. In his view, character and virtue should be the ultimate qualifiers for leadership positions. You cannot place someone of bad character in power, no matter how skilled they may appear in other areas. Their lack of integrity will always undermine their ability to lead. When it comes to political decisions, many people adopt a mindset of indifference, thinking that their vote or involvement won't significantly impact their lives. It's true that, for some, political shifts may not affect them in any major way. But the truth is, politics affects everyone. The decisions made by those in power ripple across societies, impacting individuals, families, and communities, especially those already vulnerable. For example, will the choices of a leader affect people in Ukraine, single mothers, minorities, or LGBTQ+ communities? Absolutely. So, when you cast your vote, consider how it will impact others, especially those whose lives may be harder than your own. John R.S., a philosopher, talks about going through life as if there's a veil in front of us, one that prevents us from truly understanding our place in society. He emphasizes that we cannot just think about what benefits us personally, but rather we must consider how policies and actions will affect the broader population. A truly compassionate approach to politics requires empathy and a commitment to the common good. It means asking, if I were at the lowest rung of society, how would I feel about this policy? In his Meditations, Marcus Aurelius reminds us that injustice is not only about what we do, it's also about what we fail to do. By doing nothing, by shrugging our shoulders and saying, "It doesn't matter," we commit an injustice. The choices we make, or fail to make, have profound effects on others. This idea also applies to political activism. While it's important to advocate for what we believe in, Stoicism teaches us to avoid petulance and rash decisions born from frustration. We must think beyond personal grievances and consider the broader, long-term consequences of our actions. It's crucial to avoid burning bridges simply because someone doesn't meet all of our criteria or because they don't align with our views in every regard. This kind of all-or-nothing thinking is counterproductive, not just politically but socially as well. While Marcus Aurelius, as emperor, might seem like a distant figure from the modern electoral system, his respect for leadership and governance offers valuable lessons. Marcus respected the Roman electoral process, even though he had the power to bypass it. He understood the importance of leadership that is humble, grounded, and in service to the people. When he shared power with his co-emperor, Lucius Verus, it was a testament to his belief in balance and shared responsibility, a far cry from the idea of unchecked, singular rule. In choosing leaders, we must assess not just their policies, but their character. Who can maintain their composure under pressure? Who values integrity over superficial gains? Who is immune to flattery listens to constructive criticism, and remains steady in their principles? Who is loyal, humble, and focused on the common good? Ultimately, the decision is yours, but I urge you to approach it as a Stoic. Reflect on what is truly important and how your choices will affect not just you, but everyone. Choose wisely, for the leaders we elect today will shape our world tomorrow. Make it a world worth living in for all.